Hey there, welcome back to the Millennial Book Junkie. My name is Monique, your millennial host, and today I have Stella with me because she's very H-U-N-G-R-Y because it is daylight savings time and she's very confused as to why she's not getting fed now. So she's gonna sit with me. But today I'm gonna talk to you about the books that I read in October. And the books that I read in October, I feel like this month was not my favorite month in terms of reading. I feel like I had a better reading month last month because I only read 2 5-star books out of the 5 that I read. So I'm a little sad about that, but still I enjoyed reading during spooky season. I enjoyed reading spooky books during spooky season. And the Dodgers won the World Series this month as well. As you can see, that's why I'm wearing my hat, and I'm just like so excited about life. So even though it was a so reading month, I'm very excited about life right now, and let's dive into the books that I read. So the first book that I read in October was a book club pick that I have with my family. We read All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker, and this book has been getting a lot of basically good reviews. I know that it's really popular, and it basically is a very long book, and it follows a string of missing people's case, I guess you could say. There's a lot of girls missing. It takes place in the 70s, starts out early 70s. A bunch of girls are going missing, and then one day this local boy, his name is Patch, he comes across a girl who is potentially in the act of going missing, and he saves her basically by giving up himself. And he very nearly dies. And essentially what happens is he comes out of this experience of saving this girl, missing this girl that was with him when he was going through this harrowing experience. After he saved this girl, he ended up getting injured, and then he was in this horrific experience where he was kept in the dark, and he did have one friend there, but he couldn't see her. And so when he eventually leaves that situation and goes back home to like his best friend who like loved him and misses him, and his family, he's just not the same. And essentially we follow his whole journey throughout the book of trying to find this girl that he was with in the dark when he was captured. And it's really kind of romantic, and it's sad, and the writing was really beautiful, and it takes you through a long period of time, like starting from the 70s all the way up to I think the early 2000s. And it's a very long book, and it does weave together missing persons cases, it's kind of a love story, kind of serial killer themes, but also just kind of like, I would say more than anything, a really kind of sad love story. And I really love tragic books. And so I gave this one a 4.5. It's a very long book. My only problem with it was that it was just too long. I felt like there was just like a lot of extra fluff in it. And even though it was a beautiful story that I feel would just make a phenomenal series eventually, I just couldn't, I just wish it was shorter. I just felt like there was just like a lot of extra prose, and I was like, okay, like I didn't know that it needed to be as long as it did, but it was what it was. It was still a very enjoyable read. Like I said, the writing was really beautiful. I guess I'm just used to fast-paced thrillers these days, and so I don't think that I have the patience right now for like extra stuff in books, but I appreciate it, and I loved the writing, and I read it on my Kindle, and I highlighted so much in that book. I just felt like it was just too long, and I was ready to know like what the answer was and what the ending was. And it did pay off well. I actually really liked the ending, and everything was good. But yeah, it was just a little too long for me. But I gave it a 4.5. It really was a really great book. So great job, Chris Whitaker. And I might read some of his other books. We'll see. The next book that I read in October was Just Like Mother by Anne Heltzel. Yeah, this one was really good. I gave it 5 stars. I really liked it. It was about this young girl who grows up in a cult situation. It's like a motherhood cult, and all the women in the cults are called mother, and it really centers around this idea that women are the most powerful beings, like more powerful than men. And so this girl grows up in this cult, and she escapes the cults, when she's like 8 years old, 9 years old, or however old. And she starts a new life for herself, and she decides later as an adult that she wants to kind of meet up with her her older cousin, who looks very much like her when they're adults. And so she decides to look for her cousin because they both escaped this cult, and now that they're older, she just wants to connect with her cousin, and she feels alone and she wants some of that connection. So she finds her cousin, they connect, and her cousin is like so obsessed with her, like really wants to, hang out, spend time together. And her cousin actually owns this like fertility coaching business where she's helping women get pregnant, helping women become mothers. And the more time that our main character spends with this cousin, the more she's realizing that her cousin really spends a lot of time in this motherhood space, which is very similar to the cults that they grew up in. And so she ends up staying with her cousin for a little while, and things just start to get very strange very quickly. And essentially the whole book, weird things keep happening, and eventually, it comes time for this main character to like relive some of her old childhood trauma and kind of make sense of it and get through it. And it was really, really good. I love the voice. I really love the pacing. I love the way Anne Heltzel described things in this book. I felt like the voice was just clear. It moved things forward. It gave me just enough description to be happy with what was going on. And I was just glued to this book. I loved it so much. So I gave it 5 stars. Really, really good. I liked the ending. And I think this one came out a couple years ago too. It's not new, but I just really liked it. It's called Just Like Mother. Highly recommend. The next book that I read in October was Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. I've heard a lot about this book, and it basically follows 3 siblings who just lost their mother. They're reuniting to kind of go through the whole grieving process of burial and funeral, and making plans for their mother's death, and seeing what their mother left them, and going through the house. And as they're going through the house, they come across old videotapes of when they were younger, and unfortunately they find this videotape of their dad essentially killing someone. I mean, they don't show it on the tape, but it's like basically they see that their dad had killed someone in this home video, and so they're like, what the heck is happening? So then they basically go on this journey of discovery to figure out, like, why is dad killing someone? And is that the only person he killed? And they didn't really know as much as they thought they knew about their parents. And so it's a pretty decent thriller. It has all the markings of a good thriller. I mean, it was fast paced. I really liked the idea. But there was something about this book that just didn't hit for me. I don't know what it was. It just like fell flat for me. It was interesting. I gave it a 3.5 though. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but there was something I couldn't really connect with the characters. I don't know if there wasn't enough character development, but I didn't believe that they were real, and I don't know what it was. I couldn't connect with the characters on this one. I thought the idea was really good, and I feel like the ending was somewhat satisfying and interesting, but I don't know. It just fell flat for me for some reason. I can't put my finger on it. Love the cover. I couldn't get into this one. But it was good. It was interesting. 3.5. The next book I read in October was The Girl Who Would Speak for the Dead by Paul Elwork. I was really excited to pick up this book from Dark Delicacies, and I'll link that video. It's a horror bookstore in LA, and I was really excited to pick this one up because it deals with the dead, and I thought it'd be perfect for spooky season. It is about two twins in the early 1920s, a boy and a girl, and they basically are living in a world that is kind of like reeling from World War I, and there's a lot of grieving happening. They've lost their father, and so they decide that they are going to play a trick on the kids in the neighborhood and pretend that they can talk to the dead. And they do this because the girl twin has this little crack sound she can make with her ankle that you can't tell that she's making the sound, but she makes this like sound in her ankle where like the whole area sounds like the crack is happening like from all over the room. And basically they trick these kids into thinking that they can talk to the dead. And I think this was a real thing because the author mentions in the beginning called spirit knocking. So they're tricking these kids. Eventually these kids tell their parents, and you know, parents who are grieving missing, you know, dead children want to talk to them, and like eventually kind of spirals because then you get other people who are interested in them. And the brother Michael is telling the sister Emily, like, we need to keep going with this. We need to, you know, what if we can get famous doing this? All this stuff. He's kind of pushing her, and she's just like, dude, we're lying to people. You know, this is not fun. This isn't good. And it's not good because eventually things start spiraling out of control and people get hurt. And you know what happens when you fake talking to the dead? Bad stuff happens. So this one, I would say the idea, again, was really great. I also read this one shortly after the next book I'm going to talk to you about, but I read this one after The Haunting of Hill House, and that's kind of a classic. So this one had the same feel. Like the writing was very poetic. I really appreciated that it kind of had historical fiction vibes because it was in World War I era. And there was a lot of history mentioned in here, and it was good, but I was so bored with this book. I gave it a 2.5. I do not know why I was so bored, but it was like nothing happened. Like I was waiting for more spooky stuff to happen, and maybe it's not supposed to be a super spooky book. I don't know. I picked it up at a horror bookstore, but I was just waiting for something really spooky to happen, and it just never happened. And I felt like at the end, I was just like, that's it? You know, I don't know. I wanted something more tragic to happen, I guess. I wanted there to be a bigger thing at the end. And I just didn't really receive that kind of payoff. But I will say the writing was really good. And I think it was a good book. I don't know. The story wasn't there for me. Just weird stuff. I don't know. It wasn't my favorite, but yeah, writing was very good. And I liked the idea as well. So 2.5 for this one. The final book that I read in October was The Haunting of Hill House. This is a classic. It scared the crap out of me. There's something about old classic horror haunted house novels that is just so spooky. This is by Shirley Jackson. And it's about these 4 people who go to this haunted house and spend time there to observe the ghostly phenomena that is happening inside the house. And Dr. Montague, who is an occult scholar, he's the one that invites people there because he essentially wants to study what's going on at Hill House and decide for himself if it's real or made up. So he invites a woman, Eleanor, and another woman, I believe her name was Theodora, and the heir of the hillside haunted Hill House mansion to come and stay with him. And essentially what transpires is a series of very spooky and confusing events because this book is told by the perspective of Eleanor, who is a very unreliable narrator. A lot of spooky things happen, but it seems like we can't really trust what we're getting from the narrator. Like, weird stuff happens, but she doesn't seem to be too affected by it, but then suddenly it's like kind of overtaking her, but she doesn't think it's weird, and that's weird. And so it's that kind of stuff that makes you feel weird about what you're hearing. And I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 5 stars. It was really spooky. Kind of made me feel like I was going a little mad. And it's interesting because even though it's about a haunted house, it really just plays on your sanity a little bit, and I love that stuff. So I really enjoyed this book. 5 stars. So those were all the books that I read in October. I hope that you have enjoyed your reads in October, and let me know what you read in October. Have you heard any of these, or have you heard of any of these books? Let me know. And yeah, I'm really excited that I got to read some good spooky stuff. And I'm curious to know what you read in October as well. Also, if you like this type of content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll be sharing many more horrors and thrillers with you as I get through them. All right, so until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.